Okay, if you didn't get to the examples, we're going to go over them. I'm still going to have them up here. So, couple things. I need you to pay attention. Make sure you have the right answers in your blanks. All right, if it's a congruent figure, you have to have the same shape and size. Markings matter. So there's three things you need to be able to identify to use to problem solve with congruent figures. One, the order matters. All right, meaning you have a congruency statement. That means you see that symbol. The order of the letters tells me which parts correspond to each other and would be congruent. So, for example, first equals first. That's what I wrote here. So the first letter A, angle A, would be equal to angle R because they're both the first letters. So the order tells us which parts correspond with one another and which parts are going to be equal. So I needed you to fill in the blanks using the congruency statement, meaning angle B, B would be congruent to which angle? We should have S. Okay, angle B is congruent to S. Angle D, that's the last letter, that's congruent to angle U. Check to make sure you fill that in correctly. All right, BC, that's our middle letters here. BC should be congruent to ST. Okay, AD should be congruent to RU. Okay, so the order tells you which parts correspond with one another and would be congruent. Now, also, tick marks, you have to follow the pattern. And the reason why I say that, because based on this drawing right here, you see how angle Z and Y, they all just have one arc, okay? All right, so technically that's basically saying that all the angles are congruent. And if all the angles are congruent, that would mean that they were 60, and that only happens with the equilateral triangle. But right here I have a tick mark, then two tick marks, and three. This is telling me that all the sides are different. So this, even though we have markings, it's not correlating to the relationship. So, but we're going to follow the pattern. If I'm looking at Z, angle Z is between the side that has three tick marks and one tick mark. So that same pattern has to follow for its congruent triangle. So angle Z is going to be congruent if I have 3 to 1. What would that be? Yeah, angle T. Okay? Angle T. If I'm looking at angle R, R is over here. It is between 2 tick marks and 3 tick marks. Angle R is congruent to X. Hopefully you have picked X. YZ. The side YZ has just one tick mark on it. So that's congruent to TS. Markings show you a correlation and relationship. This should be real simple, being able to read it off the figure. All right, now this order matters. I go from X, Y, Z. X to Y means I'm going through 2 tick marks. To Z is 1 tick mark, and I come back around, that would be 3. You should have RST. Any questions there? All right, now, third angle theorem is that if I know 2 angles are congruent to another 2, then the remaining angle would also be congruent. Okay, so on this example here, move it over. You had a 90-degree angle. I added the 50 because that wasn't given to you. How did I end up getting this 50 here? Yeah. Also, guys, when we started this, right here, this little picture, hi, here's a little, basically, little triangle joke, a new dating angle. It says, hi, you're a cute angle. And it says, thanks for the compliment. What do we know about these 2 angles here? They're complementary. They're always going to be complements to each other. So if you ever have a 90-degree, the remaining 2 are going to always be complements to each other. Complementary, meaning they have a sum of 90. So they're always going to also be acute. So what we had here, what happened? I missed my slide. Cheesy? Yeah, very cheesy. I know. So what I used was that complement for the 40. There we go. So I got the 50. And because I know that we have these markings to show that 40 and 40, and they both have 90 in them, then I knew that the third remaining angle was going to be congruent. So I had 12x plus 4y, because I had that marking. I knew that was already 40, because they share the same marking. The third remaining angle is going to be congruent So that's why I had the 17x minus y equals 50. But you can't solve this system without multiplying first. I know you can put this in the calculator. I showed hand, pencil, and paper, but you can't just put this in the calculator and let it solve it for you. Now, so let's talk about this one. We need you to solve for x. How can we get to this x? On the first guided example, what do we know? Anything we know? Are the two triangles congruent? How do we know that? The tick marks, yes, the marks. All right, so did we see the 74 with this arc? All right, so we should know this other triangle also has 74. Yeah, vertical, we have the vertical, so we have the 5x. And then what do we know about the sum of a triangle? It equals 180. Okay, so can we use that fact, that triangle sum theorem, to write the equation? All right, so we should have 5x plus 3x plus 2 plus 74 equals 180. Or we simplify, get 8x plus 76 equals 180. Solve for x. That's what I wanted you to do. Anyone get it already? Yeah, 13. So we're using triangle sum theorem, using that the fact that triangles are congruent to fill in the missing parts to write our equation. Also, here, all I want you to do is to write a congruency statement, okay, using the figure. So we're going to follow the markings to make sure they match up to the statements. For example, this is a polygon. We don't have really a symbol for a polygon or for a pentagon, that specific polygon. But I'm just going to, let's say I start with W. This has two arcs. If I go to W, X, Y, Z, V, I want to say that polygon is congruent to the polygon to the right, but I have to follow the same marking. So if I start at W, where do I need to go to X? Where do I need to start at? Yep, I have to start with L. And it'll be L, M, N, J, K. And that's all I want you to do is write the statement. So if you have not gotten to these, like this one I'm doing for 3. So BAG, that's that triangle. I'm just gonna, in order, you could have named it differently. You could start with a different letter, but it just has to make sure they correspond, they match up. So I just said one arc, two arcs, no arc. So BAG would be congruent to triangle. It would be C, D, F. So just check that you matched up the letters correctly based on the markings. Then on angle, on number 4, I just said X, Y, Z. This is 2 arcs, 1 arc, 3 arcs. That would be congruent to, I gotta go 2, 1, 3. It would be Z, Y, X. Yeah. Triangle X. All right, and then for number 5, there's 2 things you can do. First, problem solving strategy. Draw a label a picture. Okay, we're going to use this congruency statement to draw and label our picture. So I could say triangle. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'm going to number or label it W, H, Y, and triangle M, O, P. Draw a picture. Label our picture. We have PO is x squared minus 2x. We have YH is a 7x minus 20. We're trying to find YH. Now, this is just a problem solving strategy, but because I have this statement right here, I know which parts are congruent to each other. Because if I'm looking at PO right here, O and the P, that corresponds to what combination on the other triangle? H and Y. So I know this part goes with that part. So basically, I already know that YH is congruent to PO. Okay? So I can draw a picture to help me see it better, or I can just use my congruency statement. So after I draw and label or use a congruency statement, I'm going to need to write and solve an equation. So what equation could I write? First we start here, but then we have to solve the quadratic. So we have to make it equal to 0. Okay, so y'all simplified already? All right, so that x squared minus 9x plus 20, yeah. That would equal to 0. All right, so now that I have that, for quadratics, I'm going to have to factor. So I need factors of 20 with the sum of an x minus 4, x minus 5, negative times negative, give me my positive 20. So they want the value we need the value of x, so that would be a positive 4 and 5. How do I get back to my YH? Because that's what they want us to solve. So 7 times 4 minus 20, or 7 times 5 minus 20. Yeah, plug it into the x squared minus 2x. We should have the same value. You will have two different answers, yes. Yeah, 8 and 15. 8 and 15. Finish your foldable notes. The pink foldable is on Emoto. You need to finish that for homework. It's what I gave.